The Dnieper River, a vital waterway running through the entirety of Ukraine from Belarus to the Black Sea. Strong footholds along the occupied riverbank in the south make the Dnieper a highly strategic location. River missions are notoriously difficult due to high exposure at all times, meaning territory won or lost in this area can shape the future geography of the entire Russo-Ukrainian war. Russia, a military powerhouse, knew this all too well when it started its invasion. In the early months of the war, Russian forces advanced through the southeast of Ukraine, bombarding the city of Ochaki. Many naval vessels were targeted, and Ukraine struggled to supply troops to the area. This allowed Russia direct access to the Kinburn Spit, which they heavily fortified, laying claim to the right-hand side of the riverbank. But Ukraine wouldn't back down so easily. President Zelensky initiated a counteroffensive in August 2022 to try and reclaim the city of Kherson and the strategically important Dnieper crossing. With months of planning, recruiting, and battling, the Ukrainians succeeded in retaking a portion of their frontline territory. This is the story of Skiff, one of the men sent on the mission to reclaim the Dnieper. Skiff, nicknamed after the Scythian people of Crimea, is part of Ukraine's Center 73. These units specialize in scouting the front line, operating drones, and performing underwater sabotage. With missions based on land, air, and water, these officers are some of the country's most elite soldiers. After months of preparation and training, Skiff and his team were ready for almost anything that might come their way when trying to retake the Dnieper crossing, except for the Kakhovka Dam to explode. Russia knew that Ukraine's counteroffensive plan had its sights on controlling the river, as this was the easiest way to access the rest of the south. It suggested that the dam collapsing was Russia's doing, as on June 6, an explosion was heard sending torrents of water downstream of the dam, killing Ukrainian civilians and washing out their army's positions. Skiff quotes, "The water rose 20 meters, submerging supply lines, the Russian positions, and everything else in its path for hundreds of kilometers." Adapting their plan, Ukraine now had their sights on securing various islands within the Dnieper when the water receded. But so did the Russians. The race was on. Russia retreated to the north, and Ukraine to the south, fleeing the wall of water that was barreling down the river. Using abandoned homes and shops as their headquarters, the Ukrainians frequently moved locations while meticulously planning their next move. Center 73 officers had seriously high-tech equipment, waterproof rifles, night vision goggles, underwater breathing apparatus that produces no bubbles, even cloaks that hide their heat signature during nighttime raids. They could essentially be ghosts to man and machine. They would sleep in shifts during the day and venture out at sunset to scout new routes to counterattack the Russians, occasionally provoking gunfire to reveal enemy positions, all while under the cloak of darkness. In July of 2023, Skiff and his men were rewarded for their patience as the water began to subside. From the south, Center 73 members advanced along the river while the Russians did the same from the north. The mission for Skiff and his unit was to reclaim an island near the dam. While waiting for the water to recede, Skiff had been collecting intel from spies, drones, and satellite images, all informing him of where the Russians had repositioned. While moving in on the target, one of his men activated a Russian booby trap. A grenade tied to a tripwire exploded near the team, alerting the Russians and initiating mayhem. Some of the shrapnel hit Skiff's teammate in the back, and despite the firefight raging around him, he was forced to crawl 3 kilometers to the team's boat, which was waiting for their extraction. They made it successfully, at the cost of the Russians securing the island. A new plan was formed. The men were to go upstream and breach Russian defenses near a railway bridge. With a lot of Ukrainians being able to also speak Russian, Skiff's unit intercepted enemy communications, allowing them to know exactly how many men and what kind of weapons they would face. But this advantage didn't last long. Once the team reached the broken railway bridge, Russian Iskander missiles, drones, and hundreds of grenades rained down upon Skiff and his men. Even with their backup, they were forced to retreat under heavy fire. Just as things weren't looking their way, luck found the Ukrainians in the form of a Russian defective. An officer opposed to the war offered his help to Ukrainian intelligence, along with 11 comrades who shared his views. The group surrendered to Skiff and his team. They shared information about the Russian forces on the island and requested backup, suggesting they could take the island with 20 experienced men. A deal was made. If the Russian team could return with a photo of the Ukrainian flag being hoisted in their village, the commander would approve Ukrainian support. In mid-October, the photo was taken with a drone carrying the flag over Skiff and the team. However, reports were made of various Russian artillery attacking the area. Winged explosive known as glide bombs were sent in from dozens of kilometers away, and TOS-1A thermobaric systems, bombs that suck in oxygen from the surrounding air, were also reportedly used. Skiff and his fellow Ukrainians pushed on through brutal combat. The Russians were forced to bring units from elsewhere in the country to maintain resistance. The following footage is from a firefight on the banks of the Dnieper River. Through intense battle over the coming days, Russia withdrew their forces from Kherson and the right riverbank of the Dnieper on November 9th. Skiff's team was successful in establishing the bridgehead. Their mission, although longer than expected and with no shortage of surprises, was a success. This clip shows Ukrainian RM-70 multiple rocket launchers firing into Russian positions ahead of their crossing of the Dnieper. Multiple brigades have been sent there to protect the positions, as Russian forces were still close by on the eastern riverbank. The city of Kherson continued to face medicine shortages, damaged communications, water supply, heating, and electricity networks. While details of the mission have been kept secret, military analysts suggest Ukraine are still holding on to several positions along the Dnieper, from Oleshki on the right riverbank to Korsunka, about 30 miles upriver. With its forces within 30 miles of Crimea, a Ukrainian transit hub has been established. The peninsula is in range of Ukrainian artillery, making it even harder for Moscow to bring food, fuel, and ammunition to tens of thousands of soldiers over the winter. Is this the vital artery that Ukraine needs to reclaim land lost in the south? Thanks for watching, and subscribe to keep updated. Sergeant Rooster, over and out.